The step method, problem 9.43. In the last lecture, we looked at the direct method, and this lecture we'll be looking at the step method. They're really similar, but like everything in accounting, you got to be totally focused. If you're a little bit slack on this, it'll just go right over you, because it's different in a way that you will have to be focused to remember or to think about. So here, notice I've set up. Notice the setup looks, doesn't look the same, it is the same. It's the exact same setup. We have a bit of a subtlety in how we do some of the cross transfers though. Mentally, we still have the same model, and as a beginner, it always helps to think about that. Our goal here is to take all of these costs and transfer them over here and get them down to zero. So we actually have a goal down here. That these become zero if we do everything correctly. And we are doing journal entries. Everything across here is a journal entry. Every negative number is a credit. Every positive number is a debit. Okay? So let's start. Our first task is to get rid of cafeteria costs. So we're going to transfer that out. We're going to transfer cafeteria costs, but we're not going to transfer them just into our production departments. We are going to transfer the cafeteria costs to every department that uses cafeteria service on this line. Notice the other lines are a little different. But on this line, the first one you do a full transfer. So you're going to transfer from the cafeteria the cost to the maintenance department, admin department, fabrication, and assembly based on the number of employees. Shamefully, as I was talking in the last video, I kept saying direct labor hours, but it was actually number of employees. All the numbers were correct. And this time we're going to be looking at number of employees. What we need to do, though, is we create a new decimal fraction based on the number of employees in the departments that we're transferring into. If we look at these four departments, we have to add up the total number of employees in those four departments. So I want you to stop this video for a second, look at the data sheet that you have, and verify that you can identify just the number of employees in the four departments that we're transferring into from the cafeteria. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, I hope you did it. If you come back, we have 280, 200, 12, 8, and 20. Those are total employees. But we don't count the 12 because that's the number of employees who are in here. We just add up the others. So 280 and 200 is 480 plus 12 is 492 plus 8 is 500. So what we have is a denominator now of 500, and in the factory maintenance department, we have 8 over 500. So over here, it's 8 over 500. In the admin department, we had 12 employees, so it's 12 over 500. Here we have, is it 200 or 280? Which one? It's in fabrication, we have 280, so it's 280 over 500, and here it's 200 over 500. We need to compute the fraction. You'll see that the answer in your book is actually correct. However, they rounded their number. So when they actually typed in what their decimal fraction was, they rounded it. Remember, I told you never round anything. Their computed answers, however, are correct. So this would be 0.016. If you multiply 0.016 times the 240,000, you'll get $3,840. And the 12% is going to be 0.024. That's going to be 5760. 280 over 500 would be 56%, or 134,400. And over here we have 96,000. Credit and 4 debits. Okay, what's the balance here? Stop the video for a second. make yourself look at it, do the balance, and come back. Sure. Now we need to transfer from the maintenance department to admin, fabrication, and assembly. And the question is, how much are we transferring from the maintenance department? Stop the video for a second and think about it and see what number actually belongs in here. Put it in there. Okay? It's 207,040. So what we're saying here is actually in this system, in the step method, the true cost of the maintenance department is $207,000. This is just the beginning cost, but we transferred money in from cafeterias. So we actually have to transfer out the 207, and we have to use the decimal fraction for these three it's appropriate to the maintenance department. If we go back and reread the maintenance department, that would be based on square footage occupied. If we look at square footage occupied, and we need to look at admin, fabrication, and assembly, for administration, it's 1,750 and 88,000, 72,000. I'm going to do this down here. So we have 88,000 plus 72,000 plus 1,750. That is the denominator that we need to use for these three fractions. Okay? And the fractions, when we end up doing them, are going to be 0.0108, 0.54, and 0.45. So within rounding, obviously these two numbers are different from the last problem, but the difference is over here in some of the decimals that you don't see. This is another reason why it's not good to round, especially for students. When you're learning, you need to see the actual information you're working with. So if we multiply this, 207,040 times the 0.0108, we're going to get 2240. And 112,640. And 92,160. Okay. So another line, another journal entry, right? Credit, 3 debits. Now we're going to do admin, but what we're doing is those three. The balance in admin right now is not 160,000 because we just put another debit in there for 5760, and then we put another debit in there for 2240. So the amount that's the current balance in admin is not on there. We need to add it up, and that's how much we need to transfer out, which would be $168,000. Okay. Credit again. And remember, admin is based on direct labor hours, which we would then actually use the same fraction. So as a quirk, even in the step method, the last one that you do, the admin, is actually the same decimal fraction as the direct method. But we can recompute it, because often actually on an exam, I'm not going to ask you to do the direct method and the step reciprocal. So on an exam, you are going to have to stop and compute all of these. So this would be 0.56 and 0.44 multiplied by 168,000 would be 94.5 and 73.5. Okay. When we add these up, this will be our total overhead cost. Notice it's actually quite similar to the direct method. My experience is in a real world, it's usually not that close. This example is just a simple example, so that the numbers are pretty similar. Okay. And you can stop and do the POR for fabrication or for assembly. If we take this one, remember this was just a denominator that we used earlier, so I'm going to ignore that for a minute. If we take this as the denominator, or actually this is the numerator, because we need dollars per direct labor hour. So $1,991,540 divided by, fabrication is 562.5. $562,500 direct labor hours, 3.5405. So within a decimal rounding, this is actually basically the same number as the direct method. That's an artifact of this problem. In real life, it would be pretty far apart. Okay, so we have these two different methods. Here is why the step method is more accurate. Notice in the step method, we actually use more information. We use this and this and this. And if you remember, look back in your notes. In the direct method, we did not use any of that information. So those cross transfers were not picked up. Now, it's still not perfect because we're still not using this and this and this. Now, if those numbers are small, if this is a small amount of money, it probably doesn't matter, even if you want to do a careful analysis. But it could be a big amount of money. Okay, so under certain circumstances, this doesn't matter too much. It depends on how much is missing here. If these are pretty small, then it doesn't matter too much. If they're big, it can matter a lot for analysis purposes. Remember, if all you're doing is financial statements, then it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you write everything off in the correct time period. So why don't we use this information? Too many missing variables. You can't actually do this. You can't use this information in this set of equations unless you use linear programming, okay, or the matrix inversion method of linear programming. So that is why we can't, manually you can't actually use these percentages because you have too many missing variables here. So this is the step method once again. Schedule will help you set the schedule up first, and then realize you have journal entries, and be prepared to actually propose, what the journal entries are. You need to know the debits and the credits of the journal entries. That's part of your map, because the reason you're doing this schedule is to actually put the journal entries in the general ledger, because we need to actually transfer this so that this department actually has this as its total cost, right? Before we start doing PORs. So this is a schedule that we use to plan all the journal entries we will need. And you definitely need a schedule, because notice this is, like 5 departments here. I mean, there's no organization that has 5 departments. We will usually be doing this for 50 to 200 or 300 departments. But like 50 would be a sort of a reasonable small number, and 200 or 300 could be easily seen. So this schedule, it's a bit of a trick to figure this out. So that is now the step method. In the next lecture, I will go over the reciprocal method, and we'll see that actually the reciprocal method you can do even faster, really, than I did this here. Even though I sort of cheated, I didn't even do some of the computations. I just showed you the answers and I indicated where we did it. Partly that's because of lack of board space. In Tarot, I actually would have come over here and demoed and done some of the computations for you. Here I tried to do just 1 or 2 little example ones because I don't have enough space to get everything on the board. So there we go. The step method, I think probably the most often used method for this level 2 allocation process that we do. And so I will see you later when we do the reciprocal method. Bye-bye.